I totally agree with that. And standardized tests are something I absolutely disagree with. And same thing goes with, the weight. Like, I think students need to be told that a number doesn't define them, doesn't define how good of a student they are, how smart they are. Because the grade, the number, that's we're told that an A means you're a good student. If you have a failing grade, then you're stupid, and if you don't make the cut. And I feel like also with application processes, like the schools need to look at the student as a whole, not just the number. um,
Yeah.
that's why I appreciate schools that look more at the essays and like the reflective responses of like who they are. um, because they're some really good students, but they have anxiety with tests and like go blank. Like, I experienced that, and I'm like, but I'm a hardworking student. Like, why isn't that being reflected on my test scores? But it's like that isn't seen because the number takes precedence, and it's just really not fair.
Yeah, I remember it was junior year, and like you're supposed to, like you said, like you're supposed to junior year is like you're supposed to get your best grades in high school because that you're going to start looking towards college, and they look at your junior year grades. And but also you're supposed to figure out what you're doing. And so I remember my grandma died right before I had to take my AP US history exam. And I was like, okay. And I like went in, I took the exam, and then we were at the funeral like a couple, like 5 days later or something like that. And we had like a banquet afterwards because my grandma was like a super big partier. So we just had like a dinner banquet. And I was sitting at my table with my family, and like all my extended family kept coming up to me and they were like, "So, what are you majoring in? Like, what's your grades like? What do you want to do for your life?" And I was like, "I have no idea. Like, my grandma died and I had to go take an AP test and get a good grade because it's transferring credit to my college. I don't know what I want to study, but I have to get good grades." And I got in the car afterwards and I just like started crying, and my dad was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Everyone's expecting me to look towards my future, but there's also a ton of pressure for me to be in the present and excel in that." And I was like, "It's just unrealistic expectations." And I'm an education major and my mom works in the school system, and she was like, "That's just the way that it's been." And I was like, "Why?" Like, I don't understand why. And again, during school is when like all of your development happens in school, and like especially in your high school years, like those teen years are just hard in general, and then when you add up school and grades on top of it, it's no wonder why everyone's mental health like suffers in high school. And I feel like educators and like federal people are like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening to these people and what's happening to these kids?" And it's like, if you just take a second to look, it's pretty obvious as to why. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely get that. Oh my gosh. I was just listening to you talk about like your grandma dying and then, you having to go take an AP test the next day. Like, oh, I relate to that so much. And it's so sad how that's normalized. And, you know, like even if you did skip a day, like I can't imagine how behind you'd be in school. Like, and the pressure of being behind is like even worse. So you just like go with that terrible feeling in your head and you just go and you take that test because you have to, and that's what everyone's telling you to do. I just completely get that, and I'm sorry that they didn't let you like just feel that and just live in that. That's just so terrible. Yeah. So I guess since like everyone's shared, and also don't feel like you have to share. Like we don't have to go in an order, just do whatever you guys feel like and are comfortable with. So since like we've all kind of shared what we wanted to share on that topic, do you guys want to talk about like our stories, a little bit of our backgrounds? It's completely like, like you can skip if you want. I'm just if somebody else is watching this because it is recorded, if somebody else is watching this and they like want to hear that they're not alone, I guess maybe that might be helpful. I can start. So, hmm, compared to you guys, I'm really young. So, Um, I don't know. I've moved around a lot in my life. I was born in Oregon, then I moved to Arizona, and then I moved to California, and then within there I've moved to different schools. So that was a big part of why I turned out like this. Just a lot of moving around, no stable relationships, and I had a really bad relationship with my family until this year, and it got a lot better because of a lot of therapy, and it was intensive, and I'm so grateful to everyone who helped us because now I could say that I'm living because of my parents. I'm just here because of them, and I couldn't be happier. So I have a little sister, and she is close in age with me, which is really nice because she's like my built-in best friend, which I really need, especially during this, hard time. Um, yeah, so I moved around a lot as a kid, and then I ended up in California, and I think it's my second, yeah, I'm going on my third year being here. So it got really bad in the second moved to here. I started just falling into a big, like, huge depressive episode. It was really bad. I just didn't care about anything and just the typical, all those things. And I fell into self-harming and just bad habits. So that was just really hard to go through alone, especially because I thought it was normal. I thought everyone just felt like that. And that's such a big problem these days. Like, everyone thinks it's normal, but it's not. Like, we need help, and no one's recognizing that until you go out and tell them. But it's also hard to tell them when you don't know that what you're feeling is not normal. So, yeah, it took me a while to get help. One of my math teachers actually noticed that my grades were slipping, and she was like, "Oh, this isn't like normal, like what's going on?" And obviously I was like, "Oh, I'm just struggling." It was in geometry, of course, but yeah. Yeah, so she went and she during parent teacher conferences, she told my parents like, "Oh, she's not doing well," like, and I'm so grateful for her. Like, I didn't really like her, but she did have my best intentions in her mind. So she did tell my parents that I was not doing the best, and so my parents are actually they're really caring. I just didn't know that until they found out about my mental health. So, yeah, they did, they called the doctor, did all those things, and so that was a couple years ago, and now I'm here and I have all the help that I can get, and I'm so grateful for it. A lot has been going on. I had a lot of people close to me die this year. So, sorry, I'm laughing just cuz I don't know, I cope that way, but yeah, I had a lot of people die this year, and it was really hard for me. There have been like a lot of deaths in my school district itself due to suicide being one of them. So that was really kind of not triggering, but really just sad to hear. Um, yeah, and this year I also developed a really bad eating disorder just through all of the stuff that's been going on in previous years, it all just kind of built up, and I exploded this year. So, yeah, that's how I've been doing. That's a little bit of my background. Okay, now for like the fun stuff, I guess. Um, when I'm older, I think I want to pursue, so I really wanted to become an author, but that was back when I was naive and childish. So now that I have a little bit more insight into the world, I think I want to do something in the field of psychiatry or psychology. So I really want to do like forensic psychology or somewhere around there. Um, yeah, so and then I really like to bake. That's been one of my biggest coping skills. I love, love, love to bake. And I also like to write. Writing has been one of my like best forms of like expression or something. I don't know. It's definitely a coping skill. It helps me a lot. Um, what else? I love to read. So I love to read and write. A classic nerd, but I don't know. I've always been pretty quiet, so I love to read and write. I think my favorite book, it's called Winter Girls by Laurie Halls Anderson, and if you guys want to check it out, that would be cool. It's really good. I also like to watch a lot of TV, mindless. I watch Criminal Minds, Grey's Anatomy, so typical. But yeah. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, I also play soccer. I play club soccer. I've been playing since I was like 8, but it's hard to keep with one team just because I've moved around a lot. Um, yeah, I don't know. I hope I was a little bit relatable for you guys. Does anybody else want to share a little bit of their background?
I can go. So okay, I just said I can go and I didn't even process anything I was gonna say. So I grew up a competitive dancer. I'll start there. I grew up a competitive dancer. That was all my awards, and I realized I was looking at it. When I moved for college, I took them all down. So those are only my sisters. But I was a competitive dancer for 15 years, and I liked dance. I liked the art of dance. The studio that I went to was okay. It was like the teachers were very strict, and some of the girls, it was just competitive dance. You're competing against other teams, obviously, but you're also competing against each other and your own team. And so that was extremely degrading. And my younger sister, she used to dance. Now she does all music. But she was a very good tapper, and tap was like the one I did everything, but tap was like the one that I just was not that good at. And so that was hard because I was competing against my sister who was like 5 years younger than me, but was like just as good, if not better than me, in tap. And so just through tap, or just through dancing in general, and I went to an art school half day my sophomore year. I developed a very bad eating disorder, because like when you're looking in a mirror in a leotard 8 hours a day for like every day of the week, it takes a toll on you. So that was hard, but um, I eventually stopped dancing just because it just took a major toll on my mental health, and it was just really bad. But I was also a field hockey player, and my town has a very, very good field hockey team. And me and my friends, we all started playing when we were in fourth grade together. And there were like 16 of us. And um, my dad was the coach. My dad and one of my old friends' mom was like our very first coach. And my dad is like the biggest field hockey fanatic, especially for my town. And he always said, he was like, when you guys graduate, like your senior year, you're gonna win states. You're gonna win states. And so we were like, we have to win states. And by the time senior year came, it was 13 of us, which is more than a starting team. So our whole starting team was practically seniors, and we had been to finals every year, but we were like, we have to win this year. We ended up winning, but I actually managed my senior year as well instead of playing, because while I was playing, even though I stopped dancing, which was where I would say my eating disorder definitely like took fruition. I had just transferred it into field hockey, because our team is so competitive, and it was just kind of the same. I thought I was getting rid of like the reasoning behind it, but I had just ended up transferring it so to a different avenue. So I just stopped field hockey as well because it was again just taking a toll. And I managed, and I actually really enjoyed managing because I was actually having fun at practice. Um, and then I don't really know, my OCD. My first memory. I mean, it's hard with OCD because it's just how your brain functions, and so I don't really know how a normal brain functions. But I remember I was like 6 or so, like between like 6 and 8, and I was like just doing a compulsion over and over. And my mom, I remember she was like, "What are you doing?" And I had no idea. I referred to them when I was a kid. I referred to them as like just challenges in my head, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just like doing a challenge." Come to find out, it was definitely OCD, and I was diagnosed with it. And so that's just been, I don't know, it's just been like an everyday thing. I would say it's less of like my depression definitely hits harder, but it hits less frequently than my OCD does. And I was driving today, and I was like, it just feels just like a bunch of noise, and it's just how it is. So that's one thing that when I get, or eventually, I would just like to just have just like peace and just nice chill. But for fun, I am very artistic, so I love to do art in a bunch of different ways. I've been making a bunch of friendship bracelets again this week. So I've made like 12. Um, and I'm starting to get into reading more. And I love kids. So oh my gosh, I absolutely love kids. I'm an early childhood special ed major. And so, I will like, I'm that person that will just go, like, if you have a baby, like, I will literally just walk up to you and just like ask if I can hold your baby. um, but I volunteer at my church, in our kids' room. I work at a daycare. Um, yeah, and I'll just like go for random drives sometimes. I absolutely love driving. Yeah.
I'll share. All right, so I'm Joey. Nice to meet you guys. I am actually, yeah, so I, first of all, love the conversations. You guys are phenomenal, per usual. But it's really about kind of opening up about everything. It's all the little stuff that we feel like we had grown into a way that we were just coping with how to live without actually opening up about what our issues are. So the way that we all live now, unless you come from a household where mental health was openly talked about and you have gone through any different types of coping strategies or therapy to help you kind of realize and acknowledge what was going on, we all just started to live our lives in one way or another. And we just never were told that it was wrong because, you know, we're living our day-to-days like everyone else. But inside, we all feel like something's going on. More than half of us tend to block out those moments where now, for some reason, all of us just have memory loss. And I thought I was pretty much just, I never had a memory. It never made sense to me. And like, I can't remember any of my childhood. I can't remember high school and most of my enlistment. And all of this could have really been solved if I would have just opened up about my mental health way long ago. And so, you know, we come up from avoiding to talk about certain things because either one, it's a very taboo topic in our household, or two, we just don't know how to start the conversation. Even if it was accepted, you just don't know how to start it because it's not something that is talked about very often. It's not something that even it's like, hey, like if you ever need anything, please let me know. Or hey, like if you know, you can always be honest with me. Like those comments, it's like, then why do I keep feeling like I need to keep it to myself? Like it seems like this is my dark secret and I shouldn't be talking about this. And that was pretty much how I felt. I just felt like there wasn't anything, because for me in the beginning, it was like a family tie that was involved with it. You know, you deal with some type of abuse when you're younger. When you grow up, like the further you're going along in that series, it's just, it plays a dynamic in your life where I later started to realize why I get anxiety during the holidays, why I get anxiety during my birthdays. And it was just like, those were the moments that most of the time I would have to see him. And that was always kind of, I didn't understand it growing up, but I started to realize that these were the reasons. This was the underlining reason for what was going on, because I had coped with those emotions with, now all the time, my body just indicates anxiety, depression during these phases. And these months are always these reasons. And then you throw in life, and then you throw in a bad relationship, then you throw in losing a best friend, or you throw in losing a family member, and then you have all these other things where it's just like, I don't know how I'm functioning right now. I'm just happy to be here, kind of. And we just kind of live these lives that are like almost like just a reflective version of ourselves, where this is just the person we just look at every day. I don't know what I am, but I know that that person is not happy. I know that this person isn't where I should be and where they should be. And there was no end in sight. There was no defeating it on my own. There was no moving past it on my own. And that's where it all will take over. That's where it all will win. When you allow yourself to just push everyone away from you, because now you feel like you don't want to be a burden to anyone else. You don't want to bring down any relationship because you don't feel like they're going to be able to comprehend what you're actually feeling. And then you go through that entire, even like I went like a long-term relationship and I left because one, it was best that I left, but two, it was me not feeling like she had a son and I was the only like father figure in the life. So I had always felt that I don't think I would make a good father figure because that's what I grew up with. With mine, he wasn't really there. You know, birthdays, holidays, that's when I would see him. And that's what I always just kind of put in my own head, where it was like, this is who I'm going to be, and it's inevitable. I can't break this because we know this is the generation to generation thing that's going to be passed down. And I was terrified of that. And so all this other stuff was going on. And it's hard when you get further in life and you don't talk about things. You don't talk about the stuff that happened years ago. You don't talk about the stresses from work. You don't talk about the stresses from school. These things compile on, and they just will start to stack up so high to the point where now you're playing this juggling act of trying to live a normal life. And then once that door shuts, trying to get back to what a good day feels like. And what is that for us is, okay, well, normally I'm not locked in my room. Normally I'm not locked in my house. Normally I'm not depressed. Normally I'm not sad, but this is where I'm at. So I guess something's wrong with me. And these cycles of just negative self-talk and what we actually view ourselves is what's crippling us as individuals. It's what holds us down to believe that no one could ever help us. There is no help for me. There is no end in sight. And that's where we ultimately have a very, very big responsibility as human beings, friends, family, coworkers, advocates, where we have to try our best to try, not in like a toxic, like positivity way, but try to shed that light, or just be that light for that person that says, hey, like, these are the struggles that I've been through as well. I've been in a similar place to you. And it's not about trauma competing, and it's not about, oh, well, I've been worse, because that's not how mental health works. It's not how some people can hide what they've been through better than others. Some people are very good actors. Some people are very good singers. These are the roles that people have learned, because you've learned to wear this mask over so many years. What's one more problem? What's one more thing? But you never understand why you feel sad, or why you get nervous around certain individuals, or you can't go to social events because it's not enjoyable in any sense of that way. And these are the things that You talk about the stuff happening as a child. You talk about the stuff that happened at work. You talk about the stuff that's happening in life, and whether that be an actual event or just your mental health itself. If you don't talk about it, no one could help. Because sometimes the signs aren't as easy as, oh, well, I've noticed that you're not enjoying things anymore. I've noticed you haven't been turning in your best work. And even though those are like clear signs of, hey, something might be going on, sometimes we wear these masks so well that people can't help you. And then by the time someone does get an opportunity to, it almost feels like it's too late. And that's where I've been several times. And just hearing your guys' stories and hearing you talk about different struggles and different obstacles you've been able to get through and the different directions life has taken you all, it's inspiring. And we have a group of people here that all just want to see some change in the world. And we all have this general concept of mental health needs to be better. Mental health needs to be taken care of better. We need to figure out a way to get it into the schools. We need to figure out a way that school and mental health should not be separate topics. If you can work 8 hours a day and you have an HR person that is supposed to talk to you, now this is corporate America and corporate world where you have HR where they're going to be in charge of all your mental health. Oh, they have therapy that you can go to. They have yoga. They have different meditation. Like depending on your work, you'll have like nap time. I think they do that at Google. And you have all these different ways that everyone's understanding that if you're doing this for so long, your mental health needs to be a priority. Well, students are in school for 8 hours a day. Why is it not a priority? Why are we pretending like children, essentially children, and then growing into young adults? Why are we assuming that, oh, they've got it, they'll figure it out? I mean, we all got to where we are by getting through it. It's like, that's why, because 75% of us, maybe 85% of us are all fucked up. That's that's not something where it's like, hey, we all have to get through it. Like, no, like, let's stop this little, hey, you have to get over this giant obstacle of life where, hey, it may make you feel like you don't want to be here anymore, but if you make it through, you might get a 95 and then still feel that way. But they might help you there, maybe. Like that's not where I want to live. That's not where a place that I feel like I've done my part. And I just want to say thank you all for being here. Ananya, you're doing phenomenal with leading the group in the direction. So I'll let whoever wants to go next go. All right.
I'll share. So I
Okay.
okay.